Before I really start, I wanted to explain a little about why it's very hard to type up all the material that I'm working on, the essays, and put them in my blog, storychecksout.org. For one thing, I'm suffering from carpal tunnel. I'm pushing 60, which I suppose is a respectable milestone for someone with an unlucky life. I have a heart arrhythmia that causes me to jump. And the material itself is, quite copious and difficult to standardize into a presentation form. A couple of people thought of me very matter-of-factly when the COVID situation developed because I've been testifying that a maniacal syndicate in the United States was organized in advance to process the AIDS attack. A man named Duvall, who was black in the Union, told me rather brusquely quite some time ago when I mentioned my research. He said, I know that Bush started AIDS and I support him for it. So we're dealing with a wide variety of people. Black people are very diverse. You can't just say you have one particular audience. The only audience I'm assured of is this syndicate from, the murders that they've responded with. There have been tragic results as a result of my testifying. But there is such a thing as unions. There is such a thing as friends, scholars, honors departments. There's hope that somebody will pick up on what I'm testifying to and read my blog and copy the relevant material, and some people might be protected from this situation. But the institutions that are in place are very firm. I mean, they poisoned me in the heart, gave me diabetes and various problems. And they've murdered people, and they're still in office. It doesn't seem to affect their credibility or their standing that they pulled these adventures. If you go way back to Dealey Plaza, they were stealing weapon systems for their purposes. They came in the back door through the Red Scare, Operation Paperclip, which was a Nazi recruiting program. And when you look at very specific situations that developed around me, I'll give you three, for example. One was the Honors Department at Tacoma Community College. Another was WQED headquarters in Pittsburgh. And the third, I can't remember right away what I was thinking of. It was happening all at once. So I'll start with WQED and the honors program. Okay, WQED signifies what Queen Elizabeth did. It's a public broadcasting center in the city of Pittsburgh. Mr. Rogers operates out of WQED. They have people who struck upon the brilliant idea when I was an infant of taking the broken home of the prestigious chair of Pittsburgh's Philosophy of Education Department and subjecting me to such a horrible torture that I went into comatonic shock. And then ran a feed behind my back that they attributed to something I should have understood, even though it was the many minds of Pittsburgh. Philosophers from the Vienna Circle, prestigious attorneys like Edward Snyder, all of these humbugs, brainstorming and watching me and making sure I stayed in coma trauma. So what Queen Elizabeth did, she had a little English who said he was going to start getting nasty with me. And this Billy Club, Billy Rod, Billy Flynn, Billy Beck, and Ronnie and Casper, who attacked me and tortured me, and they kidnapped me with this guy named Mancini, which is like Manson, only cinema. And his sister's name was Neva, which is we now know was indexed to a gigantic pornography corporation, and they're doing follow-up, maniacal follow-up, saying these were devil films for Neva Mancini, and we're going to steal them to use them for the work of Jesus through the Clubhouse program. So they release the virus, film the victims, and then sell the films for Jesus. And that's part of the syndicate from WQED. And one of them is, I'll call him Joe, okay, because I personally love this man, but he's obviously off his rocker. Believes in, black solidarity. And to prove black solidarity, he dubs the wife of John Hines, Teresa Hines, an honorary African because she's from Africa and that's her cosmonautic status and things. You know, like if she introduced him to a beautiful woman, he'd be, oh, you are honorary the black man. She is so wonderful. He brought over all John Hines' white friends in their Secret Service outfits, and they sat around the house, and they would all be being dubbed honorary the black man. And then they pour out a whole mountain of German swastikas and say these are ancient tableau African ancient symbols from Africa. And he would be jumping to his feet, my goodness, in sacre bleu. You are sacred Africans now, and allow me to anoint you with an honorary multicultural UW powwow dance. Whoa, 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 whoa. And you'd see all these Secret Servicemen banging, yes, holding shields and spears, And this is a sort of ridiculousness because America can't fight Africa's battles. They would have this idea that if we didn't side with the Hutus against the Tutsis, we were racist. It's a danse macabre of the most far out politics America has ever been bog blasted with. And yet they uploaded this situation from the South African Secret Service right into the University of Pittsburgh to process the AIDS attack. And that brings me to the third item that I couldn't think of before, which is the political correctness movement. We've covered WQED and shown how it was set up to process these things through, black culture. But for the South African Secret Service, being manipulated by Queen Elizabeth, and these English and the rock stars, punks like Robert Fripp, who attack a child blindside and then call it a duel. My God. So, but I'm not an honorary the black man. I'm a white liberal, and in Gramsci's war position in the university, my father had a position that he didn't deserve. He was an outsider and so on. And they give this junk about Pittsburgh's provincialism being behind kidnapping, torture, child mutilation, illicit sex with a child who was hostage and coma bound. Okay, so this is criminally insane, but it's provincialism, they say. And if you trace back some of the things that were going on under Reagan, his Secretary of Defense, Casper, which is the name of the man who tortured me, he hit me, gassed me, did all these horrible kidnapping things. And then he's followed by Carlucci. Well, Karsh was watching all this stuff, okay, for Wattenmaker, who gave me the nerve agent. But Carlucci was a purse snatcher. And they have pictures of this Japanese guy under the Death Cab for Cutie sign, the nuclear bunker sign at the Dallas police station when Oswald gets wheeled out in the van. So you got this national security advisor being named for a nuclear purse snatcher. Literally is what's going on with this junker banana republic stuff that's coming out of Hollywood with Hollywood, Eastwood, Midori Goto's, woo-woo for Clint, and WQED, oh no, she's honorary the black man. And, the most beautiful woman in the meeting of the Heinz people stands up at the end and says, and now I will prove the holiness by making a Japanese symbol in the air. And UW dialecticians are, oh, this is sacred. No, you should be kicked out of school if you criticize this. Well, that's what brings me to PC, because PC is was uploaded with the AIDS attack, the process what the South African Secret Service was doing. You know, anti-apartheid, letting Nelson Mandela out, and Duval saying, well, we support the AIDS attack, because black man's going to get ahead and stuff. And so you have this situation where people are going against, the basic teachings of humanism, and they're Heil Jesusing and stuff when they're advocating for. Then they're saying, oh, well, this Crary kid had all this sex and stuff. Well, they were feeding that stuff, and I played into it partly on a dare because they were saying, Harry, you guys are the devil. And then they had Frank Zappa preparing to play this worm tongue stuff, which would, of course, cause somebody like me to react, and I was under deep trance hypnosis. They knew there was a neuroplasm in there, and they were taunting me, perform for us, show us you mean it, die for us. And they were setting up to say, what's worse, having sex with some girls or releasing a virus that kills all of these people so that you're psychotic, and maniacal junta can then do it again with the COVID thing, I don't think there's any reason to debate those issues because it's too obvious to me, but other people see it differently. They poison me in the mouth and say it's because you had abortion and stuff, and then they go back and punch the clock, and the school pays them. I mean, these are murder faculty picking on an elderly man who's deaf and went back to school. I mean, it's psychotic as can be. But the point is that for their genocide processing, they uploaded political correctness, which means that Patricia Fripp and King Crimson press the murder button anytime you say something that goes against their grain. So if you say, well, Alpana was one of the women who worked for Lee Goodkind at Pitt in the English department from India, who's part of a group of people who worked with, like, John Schulman, the museum thief, and that network down there on Craig Street, seduced me deliberately at the behest of the NAACP so they could call dibs on Midori. And you say, that's pretty freaked out. And they hit he said freak, so he said dishonorable about the black man. He said dishonorable about the black man. And they have these, like, PC buttons that's all in place for one purpose and one purpose only: to process Two Virgins Pussy Bowl, by which this macabre syndicate sold the idea that, making devil films of Hajj could be sold for the benefit of their Jesus redemption program. So you have this Heil Jesus syndicate in place, selling through political correctness the processes that they use to make genocide saleable with the worm tongue Zappa, saying, we'll give you contagion. And you have, like, Donald Trump taking COVID almost like a Bohemian Grove cleanse. You can see what he's going to do next. Crary should die of AIDS, right? He should get real, This is the sort of mentality that they have been pushing and pushing and pushing all along. They even say they have something called Middle Cistern. They're threatening to blow up, the Magic Mountain here in Tacoma. So you have these psychotics. And they're, from this Crystal Ball Club, McCrystal Ball, and Carlucci, the purse snatcher of the nuclear system, and they're all in place. And you have an honor society at Tacoma Community College, and what do? They totally ignore that there's an impacted neuroplasm in a child who was kidnapped and tortured. Totally ignore it. Why? Because the magic Armenians have come. And the magic Armenians say he was a jealous possessive, and that goes against the Mysterian law of womanhood. Had nothing to do with jealous possessive. These criminal women would come and sleep with me, get this constriction to cause suffocation, and then stop suddenly. And I would go into seizures. So it's criminally insane. And they trace it back to a woman who was all connected up with the music program in WQED, who was just a notorious woman of the frontier. I mean, the idea that somebody like me could do anything to her except try to run away. It's common knowledge in the slums of Pittsburgh to be eccentric, literal laughingstock stuff that they managed to sell through UW dialecticians. Oh, she was the abused, but she wasn't the abused person with respect to me. She was older than me. She had an IUD. I didn't want to sleep with her. She pushed herself on me, and then she starts making tapes. And that is her movie. That is her movie at WQED, right? So what's her movie? She's going to sell them for the Jesus Freedom people after she kidnaps and tortures the child who Warhol said was the best to be blamed for the disappearance of John Lennon. And this warped stuff is so psychotic that it's actually real and saleable to the fascist pigs in bands like King Crimson and Pink Floyd. And they want to get away with it. You know, they're making a laughingstock of the United States. It's a form of politics of which we have never, ever, ever seen before. And it's making a laughingstock out of all of us because of our refusal to be matter of fact about it. They clocked a Two Virgins Pussy Bowl war game to the AIDS attack. That's what they did. And COVID-19, they're trying to convince us psychologically as sort of behavioral modification. That's why I call it Greta Gate, because they use that poor Greta Thunberg as a bellwether for the whole thing. I'm sorry, Greta, it's the truth. I love you, but it's not my precinct, this planet stuff. These people have to be stopped, and they can't use the problems they're creating on the planet as their excuse for a genocide program. That's the bottom line. And you take my name off that motherfucking script, and I made it. You do it now.